Hello, Jen. Hello, Danielle.
Hello.
Hello. So good to see you both.
Great to see you.
Absolutely. How's your day going so far?
It's a beautiful sunny day in San Diego, so that's always good.
Yeah, isn't that about 364 days of the year, Danielle?
I don't know. This year we've had a few weeks that were not quite so sunny, but you know what? It's enjoyable for anyone who doesn't get, different types of weather. So when it rains, we get all excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
It's still a little gloomy right now, so you can send some of that sun our way. We're ready.
Gloomy
All
where
right.
you are?
A little bit, but that's kind of normal for this time of year.
No, I was on the phone with some friends in Chicago the other day, and it was 30 degrees. Can you imagine?
It's so crazy.
Yeah, and it had just been, I think,
there-
80.
Yeah, when we lived in Chicago, we were house hunting in like May. It was May 1st, and it
Okay.
was so cold. I could not stand to be outside in my winter coat.
Oh no, May 1st.
May
That's
1st.
not a good sign.
That is wild.
I sympathize with
I
them.
am showing we got about 4 minutes till the top of the hour, so we'll just chit chat and let people trickle in.
Sounds good. Today was a coffee day, so I am very caffeinated this morning.
Oh, thank you for the
So-
warning. Today is still a coffee day, even
Yeah.
though I'm 3 hours ahead of you. I'm still working on it. You too, Danielle?
Yep. Every day is a coffee day for me.
Yeah, I've recently made the move to decaf, so I have less caffeine in my life, but I still want just as much coffee. So.
Yeah, usually coffee is reserved for Sunday mornings for whatever reason, but today was a coffee morning.
Is your husband a coffee drinker, Jen?
He has become one a little bit more, but not a whole lot. He does kind of like half decaf, half
Yeah.
decaf. But yeah, we didn't even get, when we got married 23 years ago, we didn't even get a coffee maker. We didn't have a coffee maker in our house until probably 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Wow. I am sorry for your overnight guests.
I know. It was actually the reason we got one. And my uncle came to visit and he's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, how do you
That's really funny.
I'm like, let me do a Target run real quick. Get that taken care of.
That's
I
great.
had to do a version of that when my sister came to stay not that long ago, and she is a big tea drinker, and we didn't have a kettle. I know, look at you. Yep. And I'm learning, that just microwaving a Pyrex measuring glass of water is just not really the preferred way to make tea.
No,
Not if you're a tea connoisseur. You have to have 3 or 4 kettles, Kara.
Yep.
I've got my electric kettle upstairs so that it's always an arm's length away. And then I've got my regular stovetop kettle downstairs.
Oh. Right. And do you have an opinion as to which one makes a better cup of tea?
No, but you don't want to reboil water. You always want fresh water and boil it that way because it affects the taste, believe it or not.
Yes, it does. And filtered water affects the taste. So
Yes,
using filtered water, bottled water is actually better.
exactly.
I have a Keurig right outside my office door.
Just ready for
Serious.
caffeine emergency.
Yes. Serious about these beverages we need to get us through the day.
I can always get a coffee or a tea in about 10 seconds.
Perfect.
It's funny. Well, I came by the coffee addiction honest because my parents, actually my mom, she's made an effort in recent years to be less this way. But my entire childhood, coffee was like the one and only beverage she drank. She drank it with dinner, drank it with meals, like no water, nothing, just coffee.
Wow.
Yeah, a couple pots a day.
That's pretty serious.
Mhm.
I remember my parents being similar to that. I mean, there was always hot coffee, even if it was 8 o'clock at night, there was
Yeah.
a fresh hot coffee.
I would
I
never
know.
be able to sleep.
Mhm.
Good point. Well, I'm the youngest of 8, so my mom, she wasn't sleeping much anyway. So
She needed the coffee to get herself through. I didn't realize your family was that big.
she needed 2 pots of coffee a day.
That's hilarious. It's hilarious. All right, my friends, I am showing top of the hour. Shall we get rolling?
Let's do it.
Okay, so thank you everybody for being here, joining us for our newest webinar today. We know that your work lives are very, very busy, and we so appreciate you carving out some time to spend with us here today. We are complimented that you have chosen to make room for us in your schedule, and we will make it our mission to make sure that it is time well spent. So our topic here today is 2023 On-Site Retention Risk Report. And we know that employee turnover is extremely high, and teams are facing a really formidable staffing challenge right now, because not only is turnover high, but it is very, very difficult to find and hire new team members to fill those empty seats. So it's a big, big challenge for multifamily. And it's a big challenge really for every industry in the US right now, because there simply are more open jobs than there are workers to fill them. So for this reason, it has never been more important for multifamily leaders to really focus on retaining their team members. So that's what we are here to talk about today. It's really our favorite topic. So we're really looking forward to diving into it. And here at Swift Money, we work with rental housing leaders to help uncover feedback from their employees about their work experience. So we're always looking at what it's like to work in their workplaces, what's working well, and what could possibly have some room for improvement. And we have recently completed an analysis of all of the confidential surveys from all of our clients over 2022. And we zeroed in on what employees are saying is least satisfying about their work experiences. And ultimately, what could lead them to consider leaving their positions. So this is what we've identified as the retention risks. And we're going to take a look at the top 5 retention risks today. And we really feel that knowing what these risks are gives you the opportunity to take action to solve for them with your own associates and your own workplaces and drive up your employee retention. So some quick introductions as we get started here today. I am Kara Rice. I'm the Chief Communications Officer here at Swift Bunny, and I'm coming to you from sunny South Florida. And I'm joined by my very favorite collaborator, Jen Picotti. Jen is also newly promoted as our president here at Swift Bunny. So welcome, Jen. How's everything with you?
Everything's great. I'm so excited to be talking about this today, and we've got some great information to share with everyone. So this is fun.
Excellent. Great to have you here. And of course, we also have Danielle Walker, also coming to us from sunny California. Thanks for joining us today, Danielle. Oh, sorry, ma'am, you're muted. And
I'm so sorry. Great to be here. Thanks, Kara.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Danielle towards the end of our time together here today. And so for all of you, I encourage you to chime in the chat panel. We love to hear from you throughout the session. So if at any time you have a question or you have a comment, absolutely use that chat panel to give us your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. And Jen and I will do our best to give voice to them. And I know Danielle's going to be monitoring that space for us as well. Alrighty, so here is what we are here to talk about today. We've really got 2 main things we want to dig into. We're going to share the findings of our new white paper, which is called the 2023 Employee Engagement Risk Report, and shine a light on what is driving dissatisfaction among rental housing team members. And then throughout the discussion, Jen and I think it's really important to talk about what you can actually do with this information. So how to address these frustrations in order to improve employee tenure. And we like to refer to this as preventative management. And I know preventative maintenance is a term that you all are familiar with. You take actions at your communities to make sure things, you fix things before they break, right? So preventative management is really that same concept. What can you do to stop employee turnover before it happens? That's what we want to explore with you here today. All right, so let us dig in. Jen, do you want to kick us off?
All right, let's do this. So when we were diving into all of our data, we realized that the things that were rising to the top really fell into 5 key categories. Now, some of these are familiar. We've seen them before on our risk report: compensation, communication, professional development, and workload. But we also found a new one. This was on our list for the first time of onboarding. So we're going to be addressing each one of these general categories and seeing what in particular is feeding into those themes. So the first one, top of our list, is, no surprise, compensation. So one of the things that we know about compensation is that we're never going to be in a time where everyone's like, oh, you pay me too much. I've heard people talk about there's 2 things that are certain: death and taxes. But I would say that there are 4 things that are certain. There's death, there's taxes, there's residents who say that they pay too much for rent, and there's employees that say, I don't get paid enough for what I do. So I think those things are pretty standard. But when we look at the data, we see that 54% of our rental housing employees agree that compensation for their job is fair. Now, at first glance, we're like, man, that seems low. But I want to look at this, in this case, a glass half full kind of situation where we do have the majority, more than half of our employees are saying that, yeah, this compensation is fair. So I like to see that we're not all completely, off the charts here with dissatisfaction. But having said that, we do have a good number of our employees who are saying that they don't think that their compensation is fair. So what are some of the things that we can do about this? Well, we know that there's no silver bullet. We know that we can't just give everyone an enormous raise. We have to be practical about what we can and cannot do. So one of the things that we like to advise our clients and people in the industry is, first of all, let's be clear about what the compensation is. A lot of times people really don't understand everything that goes into their compensation package. It's more than just what shows up in their bank account every 2 weeks or once a month. It really has to do with, what are my wages, whether it's my salary or my hourly compensation, but also what is it that the company invests in me on a regular basis. Things like health premiums, things like bonuses and incentives. Maybe they compensate or reimburse me for classes that I'm taking, certifications that I'm going for. So one of the things that you can do is let your people know, give them a total compensation statement and say, here are all of the ways that our company invests in you. 401k matching, for example, rental housing discounts. All of these things add up to money that is being invested into the employee. And sometimes employees just need to know what that is. One of the comments that we see that's really representative of comments that we see very often is this one: annual raises don't keep up with inflation. We're always told the company is doing great, but our pay isn't representative of that. And I think that's a fair comment for employees to say, because from their seat, they're talking with residents for their renewals, and they're asking for $200, $300, $400 more per month. And when I multiply that times 12, that seems like a lot of extra money that's going into our owners' pockets. But I thought this was really great. NAA did a great piece this year, and it's probably one of my favorite pieces that they have ever done. And it's breaking down $1 of rent. I'm going to go ahead and put this this link in the chat so that everyone has access to it. But this was so helpful because I think there is this misconception of the more rent we're charging, obviously that's so much more money that's going back to the owners or management company. And when we break it down, what NAA found is that only 9 cents of every $1 is actual profit. There's things like mortgage. Yeah, the property management companies have to pay the mortgage on these properties. There are other costs having to do with managing payroll and employees. There's a lot of capital expenditures, things like that. So this is a great discussion to have with your teams on how does a dollar break down for our organization. I was at a leadership meeting for one of our clients just a week ago, and their chief operating officer put this up on the screen for their on-site managers and broke it down and walked them through what their profit was. And I think you could see on all of the property managers' faces a surprise and like this light bulb of, oh, I thought it was so much more. And so it kind of put things in perspective. So these are really valuable conversations to have. Another thing along the lines of compensation are performance incentives. This is something that, I think is a challenge because a lot of our performance incentives have been exactly the same for as long as the industry has been around. So a lot of things that employers are starting to look at is really understanding how people want to be incentivized, what is motivating to their team members. And here's a quote that we see come up every once in a while. When I realized I was the only one who didn't get a year-end bonus, it dragged me down a lot. Now, the reason I say this, that this is similar to a lot of comments we see, maybe it's not this specifically, but there was a lot of confusion, a lot of misconception around communication of incentives. So you'll see that we have a whole section about communication, but I think when it comes to compensation, communication really does play a key role in how people are feeling about compensation, incentives, bonuses, etc. Because I read a comment like this and I'm thinking, okay, there is a disconnect here. Maybe it is the case that they were the only one that didn't qualify. That could be the case, but it may be that they think they're the only one that didn't qualify, and really it applied to a lot of people. Maybe they were just hired on a month or two before, and that's why they didn't qualify. But there is some communication that is not taking place. And that is a common theme that I see, is that people not really understanding what are the things that I have to achieve in order to be eligible. How does this work? Is it a team bonus? Maybe I got a bonus and it didn't get highlighted, so I didn't really notice it. There's a lot of things going on, but we have to be sure that we're very clear and as transparent as possible about what it is that we are giving our team members as incentives, as compensation, as motivation. Another thing that has to do with compensation package is the benefits. So we saw that 10% of on-site and all multifamily employees are saying the benefit package doesn't meet their needs. Most often we're seeing higher percentages when it comes to on-site roles like leasing and maintenance. One of the things that clients often ask is, what are the benefits that people are looking for these days? They're looking for a wide spectrum of benefits that they can offer to their employees to make themselves stand out. And one of the things that we really try and coach our clients on is, it's not so much the spectrum of benefits, although that can be really cool and that can be nice. But when we look at the basics, health benefits, dental, medical, those types of things, the one thing that we challenge them to look at is, what is your participation rate in those basics, in that medical, in that dental, in vision? If it's a really small percentage of your on-site employees, you may need to take a look and see, how accessible is this? Because if I'm asked to pay a premium of $400, $500, $600 per month, well, if I'm an executive that has a six-figure salary, that might not hurt so much to be able to pay that. But if I'm on a much lower salary, if I'm making $40,000, $50,000, and I'm having to give away $400, $500, $600 a month, I can't do that. I have to start making decisions for my family of what we can have and what we can't have. So we really need to take a look at what percent of our employees are taking advantage of our benefits. If it's not a very high percentage, then it's no longer an actual benefit, and it actually becomes a point of contention because I can't take care of my family the way I want to take care of my family. And this is a common comment that we see in our surveys. Benefits are so expensive that I had to decline them. To add a spouse or children, you're just basically working for benefits. These are the types of things that we want to make sure we have accessibility for the biggest percentage of our employees as possible, so that they really can take care of themselves and their family the way that they need to and the way that they want to. All right. So I think that we are moving on to our next risk, and I'll turn this over to you, Kara.
Thank you very much, Jen. Great information there. Next on our list of retention risks is this one, which is near and dear to my heart, communication. Jen touched on this a little bit. Just about everything, I would say, when it comes to leading people can be improved by improving your communication. Now, here in multifamily, if you've been in this business for a while, you probably agree with me that we are sort of notorious for communication problems. It's just kind of a known issue that we have, that management doesn't communicate well with maintenance, for example, or the home office, the corporate office team has no idea what's going on site, and so on and so forth. And a lot of times information from the corporate office is delivered only to the property manager on site, for example. And then it's assumed that that manager will be able to relay that information to the rest of the team. But it doesn't always work that way. It could be that the rest of the team members never get that information. You know, whatever was emailed to the property manager just kind of went there to die, and the rest of the team doesn't know what's going on. So you wind up with a bunch of team members who feel like they are being left out of the loop. And sometimes it can feel sort of like this.
I love the memes that you find.
Oh, I know. I love this one too. I shared it with a group in Texas recently, and I had so many people laughing and taking pictures. But it's one of those things where, like, yes, it's funny, but it's also painful because it's funny because it's true in a not great way, right?
Yep.
So yeah, communication problems, they're a known issue for our business, but what you might not know is how much they impact employee satisfaction. It is among our top retention risks, not just this year, but pretty much every year. So it's very important that we take this one seriously. So let's look at some specific data points and some feedback from employees having to do with communication. The first one I want to share with you is this. Take a look at this. 22% of regional managers say they don't receive a response within 24 hours when reaching out to coworkers or supervisors. Now, let me be very clear here that this is not a problem only with regional managers. We really heard this from every role. It was especially high for regional managers and also community managers. So roughly 1 out of 4 or 5 community managers or regional managers feel this way. So they can't get the answer that they need. They can't get the support that they're looking for from somebody else in the organization. So this cascades down, you guys. Chances are when a regional manager needs an answer to an issue, it's probably because she's trying to solve a problem for her community team. So if she's not getting a response, she then can't give a response to the community team. And ultimately that might result in some sort of an issue for a resident or a prospective resident. So this is a problem not just for the individual, but it's a problem for the entire team and the entire operation. So we really need to do a better job with being responsive to our colleagues, our coworkers, whether they are bosses or people who report up to us or our peer groups. It's very important that we are responsive when others reach out with a question or with a request for some assistance, because otherwise our service suffers all the way around. So response times are super, super important. When you don't respond, it not only makes people feel invisible and undervalued, but they flat out can't complete their work. So do your best to be responsive to those internal requests when they come in. ASAP is great. I think certainly within a 24-hour time frame is a reasonable expectation, similar to what we do with residents, right? And make sure that everyone who reports up to you is following along to that same standard. So let's hear a quote from an on-site team member about how this issue is impacting them. Look at this. It feels as though nothing is urgent to corporate employees, but if I'm asked something, I'm expected to answer quickly. We hear that a lot, and it's almost as if there's some sort of a caste system, right? Where corporate employees are treated as VIPs and on-site team members are just there to serve them. And then ultimately, that kind of a culture doesn't serve our customers very well, does it? So you want to make sure that the culture that you are sustaining within your company is different from that one. And here's the thing about workplace culture is if you want to change it, you just have to change how you behave. So if this is the culture that you're suffering with right now, change your response times and you change your culture. All right, here's another stat on communication. 11% of on-site teams say they are unhappy with the amount of internal communication. So that tells me that they're just not getting the information or enough information from company leaders and their supervisors. Now, if you are a person who leads people and you are one of the ones who is actually sharing information, you might be really frustrated by this stat because it could feel to you like I'm always telling them what's going on. I'm constantly sharing information. So the problem is on them because they're not reading my emails, for example. So that could be valid. That could honestly be the case. But whatever the cause of it is, ultimately, you have a communication problem that needs to be fixed. So if you're sending weekly emails and no one is reading them, you might want to mix up your messaging, for example. It could be that email is not the way to reach the people that you're trying to reach. You might want to throw something else into the mix. So let's hear in an employee's own words how they feel about this topic. I feel like we get communicated about things that don't matter, but not the things that do. Like when someone leaves, some of us don't know about it for weeks. That is really interesting feedback, isn't it? That one's kind of a punch to the gut. Can you imagine not knowing that your coworker doesn't work there anymore? That's kind of a problem. So it suggests to me that you might want to take a look at what you're sharing and also what you aren't sharing with teams to ensure that you are meeting their needs. And as I said a moment ago, I'd really encourage you to add different delivery methods as well, because not everybody's going to read email as much as you want them to. So consider mixing it up and maybe duplicating your efforts by using different methods to get it out to folks. One of our clients, for example, is having great success with video podcasts for their team members. So they regularly sit down with company leaders or folks at all levels of the organization, and then they push that out via a private YouTube channel for their team members. And video is very compelling to a lot of folks, so that's working really well for them. So think about the different preferences that folks have when it comes to receiving information and do all that you can to reach the widest audience. All right, I've got one more stat for you on communication, and it's this one here. 12% of leasing associates say they are not encouraged to suggest new and better ways of doing things. This one is really painful to read because for these folks saying, yeah, nobody wants to hear my information, they probably feel as if their opinions don't matter, and they probably feel very demoralized by that. So listen, even if somebody is new to the business, even if this is their first real job that they've ever held in their life, they have value. Their opinions value, their experiences have value. So make sure that you are listening to your team members and you don't make them feel as if their opinions don't count. So they should feel encouraged and empowered to share their opinions and their perceptions about the work that they are participating in. And when they're not, they likely feel unvalued, and that's when they may be more likely to think about other opportunities. So let's see a quote from someone who kind of put this into their own words. I feel like every time I have an idea, I'm shut down, even if it's not going to cost a dime. I don't feel like I'm involved in any decision making. This one really breaks my heart. It's so painful to hear that somebody is feeling this way. So a technique that I would recommend to you to kind of combat this perception is to require your supervisors to conduct regular one-on-one meetings with every member of their team. And these don't have to be massively time consuming. They might even only have to take 15 minutes once per month. But every individual deserves one-on-one attention from their supervisors. And if you do that and make that a practice throughout your organization, I think you're really going to mitigate the number of folks who feel as if their opinions don't count. It can be a really impactful technique. All right, Jen, back to you. What is our next risk here, please?
All right. So the next one on our list, and this is one that we see very, very often, and that is professional development. In fact, this typically comes up in the top 5 opportunities for improvement for literally every property management company. So this is something that we can pay attention to because there's a lot of things that we can very quickly and easily implement as an owner, as a supervisor, as a company, as an industry, to make this process better. So one of the first stats I want to share with you right now is this one, which is kind of surprising if you think about it. 34% of companies do not promote all open positions to current employees. It tends to be one of those, will promote this open position, but not this open position. And we're really missing an opportunity by not promoting all of our open positions to all of our current employees, because what our rental housing employees tell us loud and clear, no matter what role they have in the organization currently, they want to know what's available. They want to know what the possibilities are. And so by letting everyone know, here's everything that's open, you can allow people to dream, and you can allow people to stretch their own wings and ask for opportunities, ask for development. It can really prompt some very valuable and important discussions. Now, what's challenging right now, and I think it's often challenging in our industry, is that, and I've said this very often, so if you've heard me say this before, forgive me, but we really do need every single employee in exactly the role that they're currently in, because we're stretched so thin, and it's not easy to find new great employees. Sometimes it's not even easy to find new employees, whether they're great or not. We just need bodies to fill roles. But if we're not allowing our employees to talk about what they're interested in, when they're not showing them opportunity, if we're not showing them opportunity, they're going to find opportunity elsewhere. And here's a quote that kind of emphasizes this, this whole situation. The only way I know of openings is looking through the Indeed job board. So the thing is, you're promoting opportunities somewhere, whether it's on Indeed, whether it's on your own company career page. But if you're not promoting it internally, your employees are looking and they're spotting it, and they're like, why didn't someone ask me if I was interested? I was interested in that role. So it is an important thing to do. And some of these other stats will kind of feed into this overall opportunity of, we need to let people know what's going on. So similarly, 32% of employees, they don't know what the promotion path is within their own company. No one's talking about it. No one really knows. It's not really defined. And one of the things that we found to be really effective, a lot of companies currently are sending out an email on a regular basis saying, hey, do you know anyone who'd be interested in these roles? Because they've got a referral program and they really promote that referral program. But one of the things that is really effective, and it is so easy, is just adding a couple extra words into that messaging and just saying, are you or anyone you know interested in any of the following? Now, the reason those words are so important, are you or anyone you know interested, it lets your employees know that you are open to people's growth, into their development. You're interested in knowing what they're interested in, and you want to be able to promote from within. There are some companies that may not be as interested in promoting from within, but think about the value and the benefit of being able to bring up someone who already knows the drill. They know the policies and procedures. They know where to find stuff. They know who to ask. What a great thing to be able to get someone up and running even more quickly because they already know the ropes. So here's a quote that we see, and it's pretty representative of something that we hear often. I'm interested in moving up, but I hear the company does not always promote from within. I love the companies that take the opposite approach and that they're very loud and proud of the fact that they do promote from within. There's a lot of companies who, if you looked on their LinkedIn, you look on their Instagram, they will promote, hey, look at, these are all the people who have progressed within our company, that have been promoted in the last month, in the last quarter, in the last year. There's one company, and Kara, maybe you'll remember who this was, but at the end of the year, they will publish the number of internal promotions they had for the year. We promoted 112 people over the last year. And that's really exciting because people, especially people who are looking for a new role, they're looking for a new company, they're actually looking to see, is this a company that has growth? Is this a company where I can get my foot in the door, but I can also become or see this as my career path? Is this a professional career that I can grow within one particular company. So those are things that you should be talking about and celebrating internally, so that internal team members can see, oh, I have a future, a long future in this company if I want it. And it's also something from a prospective employee perspective to see, okay, this is a company that grows people. I'm not just going to get in the door and be stuck on a hamster wheel. I can get in, I can learn the ropes, and I can progress, whether it's up a career ladder, of leasing, assistant manager, regional, or it may be I'm in leasing, but I think training is really interesting, or I think marketing is really interesting. And you can hear those stories of people growing and moving in different directions within the organization. Another thing that we're seeing, another stat that we have here, is 10% of employees say they don't get timely feedback on their performance. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, this is the young people, the brand new employees. Maybe they haven't had a real job before. But you know what? We're seeing this feedback from across the board, regardless of title, regardless of how long they've been with the company or within the industry. These are employees of all ages and all backgrounds. Everyone wants to know, am I doing a decent job? Am I doing an okay job? And this whole concept of no news is good news, that doesn't fly. People want to get that input to say, hey, thanks for doing that. You're doing a great job. I love how you handle these types of situations. People need that feedback. So be very generous with praise, be very generous with input. And even if it's just to say, hey, next time you're faced with this particular situation, consider approaching it this way. And having those conversations, because sometimes people just do something because they don't know how else to do it. And they know like that didn't feel quite right, but they don't know how to do it a different way. So being able to have conversations about, how do you think that went? What would you like to do differently? Here's some things that have worked for me. Here's some things that I've seen work really well. Those are valuable conversations, and people are eager to get that kind of information so that they can do better. And here's a quote that kind of shows what we're hearing. I'm not currently motivated to do my best work, as I do not feel like anyone even notices. Oh my gosh, that's just, it's heartbreaking if someone just saying like, why should I do better? It doesn't matter. I can do a mediocre job, or I can do a great job. No one cares. So I'm going to do the bare minimum. We don't want that. We want people to do their best work, and we want them to be engaged, and we want them to enjoy what they're doing. But one way we can do that is to give that feedback on a regular basis. So promoting your job openings, giving people feedback, letting them know there is a path for you, finding out what's interesting to them. All of those things are not only motivating to employees, but it really does keep them here. When they feel like the company is investing in them and in their growth, in their development, they're going to invest right back into the company with their tenure, with their good work, and by also bringing people in and saying, this is a great place to work. You want to work here with me. All right, I think we're on to our next theme from our risk report. Kara, what have we got?
Thank you. That was good stuff there. And once again, there's kind of a theme with employees feeling invisible, which is really, really scary. Employees are definitely not invisible to other employers, right? Because everybody's trying to hire right now. So you want to make sure that your employees are getting that TLC that they need right there within your company. All right, the next risk to retention that I want to dive into here with you is the workload. This one's coming in among our top 5 risks in the number 4 slot. So let us get into it. What exactly is going on here? First stat I have for you is our regional managers. Again, 23% of them say their work cannot typically be completed in the time allowed. Now, managers were not far behind regionals in feeling very overburdened, very overloaded with work. So it's probably not surprising to any of you. Unfortunately, I suspect some of you are probably feeling the very same way. And let's face it, our business has always been hectic. It will always be hectic because there are always fires, right? You just never know what is around the bend when it comes to managing communities. But these days, with staffing shortages being what they are, I think this is extra prevalent in our business because a lot of times, you've got short-staffed communities. So the remaining team members are shouldering some extra responsibilities, extra load, covering those vacant positions. And not only that, when it comes to our regional managers in particular, there is time that needs to be spent on recruiting and hiring to try to fill those empty seats. And that's a very time-consuming activity. So a lot going on, and many, many folks are saying they feel like they just can't get it all done in the time provided. One other note I want to share with you all here, we have partnered with the National Apartment Association. We are once again working with them to conduct their annual mental and emotional health survey. And this is the third time that we've worked on this survey with them. And the results will get published next month, but we are diving into that data right now and doing an analysis. And I'm sorry to tell you that our scores in this area surrounding workloads, they're actually getting worse, not better. So that is a bit concerning. And you'll see when that report gets published next month, the specific data on that point. But it's something to be mindful of because team members are feeling very, very stressed out and like they can't get their work done. And that absolutely, I think, is a very, very compelling driver for folks to think like, there's got to be something better out there. I can't go on this way. I just don't feel good. I can't get my work done. I'm stressed out. I can't meet my personal responsibilities. There's got to be a better job out there. I don't feel like this every day. So let's hear a comment from an employee on this one. This person says, I cannot stress enough how behind I get in my work due to time that is taken on company calls, reports, and audits, right? Anybody feel this way? So many meetings. When does the actual work get done, right? So if you are in a leadership role, I really encourage you to take this feedback to heart and take a good look at what you are requiring of your teams and see what you could possibly take off their plates. Your teams are stretched to the max and literally stretched to their breaking point. So let's take a very close look at all of those requirements, whether it's reports, whether it's audits, whether it's meetings. Something has got to give in order to free up some time for your team members. And also, I would suggest to you, if you are considering adding something, a recurring meeting, a recurring call, something like that, use that same sort of logic that you hear from home organizers and clutter busters. If you buy a new pair of shoes, then an old pair of shoes has to go out. So if you're thinking about adding a new recurring meeting, you got to take something off of their plates, right? Because people can't just stretch into infinity. It doesn't work like that. And teams are loudly and clearly telling us that they are overloaded. So something is got to give or somebody's going to break. And we absolutely don't want that happening among your team members. All right, one more stat here on workloads, and here it is. 26% of employees do not agree that they have the needed resources, tools, technology, and support to do their work well. And this is across all positions. So more than 1 in 4 saying, yeah, I don't have what I need. I literally do not have the tools that I need in order to perform the work that I need to do on a daily basis. It's so very fundamental. It's not only frustrating, it's demoralizing, and it can absolutely lead folks towards the exit. So let's hear a team member's specific feedback on this topic. We don't feel valued when we work with the most outdated, slow computers, yet we know management is working on new and powerful computers. Oh, there we go again. It's that caste system that we talked about a little bit earlier, right? Why does management get those Mac Daddy computers? And then here we are stuck with the old and slow ones. Very, very frustrating, very demoralizing.
The old Commodore 64 is not working right now.
Right. You can get another year out of that, baby. I feel it. So anyway, I don't know what the specific frustrations are, what tools and technology your team members might feel like they are lacking, but the only way to find out is to ask them, right? So what's getting in the way for you? What do you need from me? How can I help you? You may not always be able to say yes, of course, to those requests, but it's so important that you ask the question because You want to know what it is. You want to know what the problem is. And unless you ask, it's very likely that you will never know, right? So make that a part of your recurring conversations with all of your team members, and encourage everybody who's in a supervisory role to do the same so that you can problem solve for them and stop the frustrations before they get too far. We don't want team members feeling like this one, for example. It's another one of those. It's funny because it's true, but we don't really want that to be true at your community, right? We want people feeling good and like they have what they need in order to perform.
Oh, Patrick.
All right, I know, Patrick. All righty, Jen, you want to take us home? I think we've got one more risk to share with folks.
Yes, and this is a big one, and it's a new one that made the list this year, which I am very sad to say because it is so important. And that is onboarding. This made our list for the first time, and we've been seeing now more than ever, there has been skyrocketing turnover for new hires. In a way that we've never ever seen before. So you work so hard to get someone in the door, you've found them, you've interviewed them, you get them in on day one, and some people are just disappearing by day 2 or 3. We've seen really high turnover in the first month in particular, and that's really scary. But we want to give you some insight on what may be causing that, what may be playing into that, and what you can do to address it. So the first stat that we've got on our list is 1 in 3 of our new hires say that they aren't given enough time during work hours to complete training. We're hearing more and more that new employees are being asked to do training on their own time. Well, first of all, we don't know if that's exactly legal. Second of all, people are busy. People have very, very full lives. And so if they're not able to do it during their work hours, there is a very high probability they're not going to be able to do it when they're not at work. So you've got all these people that are being thrown into the proverbial frying pan, not really sure what to do. We actually heard stories more than once of a brand new leasing agent. They've never been a leasing agent before. They went to go start on their first day at the property. They walk in the door. They were given a set of keys and a map and said, okay, we're so glad you're here. And then the person left. So this leasing agent who's never worked on a property, their very first professional job, thrown into, how do I answer the phone? How do I log into computers? How do I do, is it a paper lease? They knew nothing. I mean, you can imagine how long this person lasted, right? I'm surprised they even stayed a day. So we need to make sure that people, when they are coming in, they are being provided with training, they're being provided with some level of guidance so they can start feeling like they can contribute instead of just feeling like an idiot, because that is not a good feeling of just standing there feeling like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. That's not comfortable. And for a lot of people, it's going to be so uncomfortable, they're not going to stick around. And here's a quote that kind of demonstrates what people are feeling. I only received Word documents instead of actual guidance. Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know about you, but are you going to sit there and just flip through pages and pages to figure out what to do and when to do it? Not very effective. I think we can do better than this. Now, another thing that we're seeing, 1 in 10 say they don't have access to the training and development needed to do their job well. So not only are they not being given training during their work hours, but in general, they're not getting the training and development needed to just become good at their job, to become competent, to feel like they know what's going on and what they're doing. So we need to make sure that not only at the beginning, but especially in those first 90 days overall, that they have access. They know where to find the training. They know where to log in. They know who to talk to, that they're being paired up with a buddy who's in a similar role that they can ask questions to and say, okay, how do you do this? What do you do when you're in this kind of situation? We really need to provide people with the information of what to do. We're really good in general as an industry of making sure that people get fair housing training right away, sexual harassment training right away. So we're really great at telling them what not to do, but we need to become way better at ensuring that they know what to do and as quickly as possible, so that they're not just standing around and sitting around that first week going, is this it? Like, what am I doing here? So here's another quote that that really highlights this. And this is one of those funny because it's funny, but it's also really sad. I spoke with my manager and asked for more training. Hopefully one day, it's like, oh my goodness. So we've got people who are asking for it. It's not that they're avoiding it. It's not that they don't want to. They want the training. They're asking for the training. And sometimes they are just not being offered it. It's not being offered to them. So one more stat in this whole area, 13% of new hires saying the training provided hasn't helped them become effective at their job. Again, being told what not to do, but not necessarily being told what to do. And here's a quote that helps highlight this as well. I'm 2 months in and still don't have a clear idea of my job duties or how to do my job confidently. Okay, so we're seeing these, you can see the trend, you can see the theme here of just having the time to be able to complete the training, being told, here's the plan, and then just feeling like they're competent, feel like they can contribute as quickly as possible. So we can't just throw people in and assume that the manager's got it all taken care of or the other leasing agent's going to show them the ropes. We really do need to define this out and say, okay, what's going to happen on your first day? What's going to happen in your first week? What can you expect? What do we want to accomplish within the first 30 days, within the first 90 days? A lot of companies don't necessarily have this clearly defined. And it's something that's really going to make or break an organization of how well you get people introduced and up and running within that organization, introducing them to the culture, introducing them to the role, and help them be able to feel confident in doing a good job. Because people don't want to come in and do a bad job. They want to come in and do a good job. They want to feel good about what they're doing. But they can't feel good about what they're doing unless they know what to do. So this is probably right now our biggest opportunity within the industry of laying out a very clear and good onboarding program. So that's what I would have you think about over the next weeks and months, starting them off as you want them to go and making sure that they have what they need to do their best work as quickly as possible. All right. So with that, I think we've
Thank
gone
you,
through
Jen.
all of our the 5 key themes that we found in our risk report. So Kara, I'll turn it up to you. What can we do? What can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. We have covered a lot of ground today with those 5 top risks that are impacting employee retention. So we will quickly wrap up here with some tangible takeaways for you, because the most important thing we can do today is leave you feeling empowered to take action, to do something and make a positive impact on your own team members and your own workplaces. So a couple of highlights from the topics that we touched on today. One is to improve your communication, and that's in both directions, to make sure that you're sharing information in methods that your team members actually receive it, and also that you are receiving information. You're gathering that feedback from your people so that you know what's frustrating them, what's getting in their way of feeling satisfied and being able to deliver for you. So improving communications in both directions. Jen talked quite a bit about getting people promotion ready, letting them know what opportunities are available to them. And it's so very important, because I promise you that other companies want to hire your people. So if you're not looking at your own people for promotion, you should be, because that could definitely be a big risk factor for you if they feel like they have to move on in order to move up. You want to keep them in the fold, right? So make promotion opportunities available for your team members. Make sure everybody knows what growth opportunities are available, and celebrate and showcase those promotion stories. Jen, I think the company that you were thinking of is RPM Living. They do a fantastic job of celebrating those promotions. Now, they're a bigger organization, so the number is really powerful. I think their promotions last year was 400, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
But that's a fantastic stat to be able to celebrate on social media, and absolutely makes people sit up and notice, like, oh my goodness, there are opportunities abundant there. So it's a good thing to do. Celebrate that step. We talked about removing unneeded tasks such as reports, meetings, etc. Your team members are feeling overloaded and bogged down. So really take a look at what is required, what is necessary, and see where you can make some cuts just to free up folks' time a little bit. And then finally here, creating a strong start for your new hires. It's absolutely devastating to me to think about all of the time and energy and effort that we put into hiring right now, only to see those folks, fall out, whether it's a day later or within the first 90 days. That's just such a waste of resources. And it's this hamster wheel that we have got to get off, right? You want to fill those seats with people who are going to be quickly competent and confident, as Jen said, so that they can perform for you. And hopefully they will stick around for a long time because we don't need any more empty seats. All right, we've got a few more things to share with you here today, including we've got a couple of bonus handouts. But before we get to that, I'm going to pass it over to Danielle Walker, who has been waiting very patiently here with us. So grateful to have you here today, Danielle. She is our Director of Client Strategy, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the solutions that we have here at Swift Bunny that may be helpful to you in your efforts in some of the stuff that we talked about here today. So Danielle, take it away, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks to both you, Kara and Jen. And hello, everyone. It is great to have everybody on the call with us today. Many of you on this webinar are current clients, but for those of you who aren't working with us just yet, let me take a moment to share with you the Swift Bunny solutions that can help you in your efforts to keep your team members enthused and in place. Our flagship solution is Engage. This is our employee lifecycle feedback system. It's the first of its kind in the industry. It's an easy, effective, and affordable way to gather honest feedback from your team all year long. Our surveys go out automatically and at key moments, like when someone new is hired, after their onboarding is complete, on their work anniversary, or when they transition from a new community or into a new role. Now, the employee comments that Jen and Kara shared with you today, all of those come from Engage surveys. So you can really see just how candid team members can and will be. Now, getting that sort of feedback from your people helps you uncover your opportunities for improvement, as well as see your strengths. We like to call these your superpowers. Now, this allows you to keep doing those things that employees love about working for your company. And because many of you also have a need for custom surveys, our companion solution, Inquire by Swift Bunny, will let you build your own surveys to fit your unique needs. Now, Inquire also integrates with your employee database. So managing surveys and responses, it's a snap. And just like Engage, it's easy to analyze responses using a detailed dashboard. Best of all, there are no limitations and no unpredictable fees. So we all love that. And finally, I am so excited to mention to you our newest solution, Introduce. Introduce is a hire to retire workflow manager. Now we're demoing this solution now and rolling it out this summer. And so far, the feedback we're getting is amazing. Introduce will allow you to streamline the management of all your hiring, onboarding, promotion, transition, and offboarding tasks. Now, you heard in our session today that many new hires are underwhelmed by the onboarding that they're receiving. And of course, that's going to impact their likelihood to stay with you and have that engagement. So industry-wide, we need to do a better job than that. Introduce can help make a great first impression with all of your new hires. So if you're interested in seeing a demo of any of our solutions, reach out to me. Let's schedule a time. My email is danielle@swiftbunny.com. Thanks, Kara. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate that. All right, we promised that we have a couple of bonus handouts here for you. And here we go. Jen's going to go ahead and post the links in the chat right now, but we've brought two here for you today. The first is we want to give you access to our white paper from which we have been calling upon for the data here today. That is the 2023 Employee Engagement Risk Report. So if you want to get really into the weeds about all of this information we shared here today, the white paper is the way to do it. Now, if you want a one sheet that gives you kind of the quick and the dirty on this information, we also have that. We've got an infographic, which is titled 2023 Threats to On-Site Employee Retention. So if you're more of a visual learner, if you like pictures instead of words, the infographic is the way to go. So you can grab those from the chat. We've got the links posted in there. And also we will email these same links to you tomorrow in our follow-up webinar email. You'll also get a link to this recording, by the way, so that you can share it with anybody that you think would benefit from it. So that is a wrap on our conversation here today. We're so grateful that you took the time to join us. Thank you very, very much for your interest in this topic and for spending your time here with us today. We would look forward to seeing you either on our next webinar, or if you will be in Atlanta for the NAA's Apartmentalize Conference in June, we will be there, and we would love to see you in the flesh, in person. That's even more fun than a Zoom meeting. And Jen and Danielle, thank you both for joining me here today. That is a wrap, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. My pleasure.
Thank you.